Alright, here's a fast little update. As you can see here, I got my DC light on. Alright, and now I have it wired into my fuse box of my house, and when I turn the light on, that's the DC light over there. And to prove to you that it's the DC light, let me turn my light off here. And you can see it light up on the wall or what have you. Okay, now let's go here and turn the load off. Turn, my DC lights and everything on. And right here at my wall outlet, like I said, everything as the current moment is DC. There's a little car battery that I'm running on. And turn my headlight back on. Okay. As you can see, I just got it wired in to the modified inverter. And trace it up. And come here and turn it on. There's the refrigerator. And when I turn it on, you should see the light come on here. Like I said, everything in my house at the current moment is DC. And where this is a modified inverter, I still don't like to run my refrigerator on it. So therefore, we got coolers here. And this is just a clear trash bag. We got our items in there, and eggs, soda, apple butter, things of that nature. But that's like, it's been in there for like what is today, the 5th of April. It's been in there like the 1st of April, so 4 days. Yeah, a lot of it's went down to water, but it's, it's ice cold, so good deal there. We ain't freezing no ice creams or anything of that nature. But go ahead and turn it off. But yeah, just the house is DC, and I have it ran on this orange and green. This green here is a solid 10 gauge wire, and then this orange is a solid 10 gauge wire. And then I have these that's going into my battery, and then I have the same wire coming out, green and red, or green and orange, running up, over, and going into my fuse box in here. So let me show you my fuse box. Okay, I do not have a DC light in here, but as you can see, this is going back to the grid, which we have no power on it, Anyway, going back down, I have it ran into the electric furnace 60 amp breakers. And they're coming up, and I got a jumper wire. It's 2 white jumper wires going in, and as you can see, these 2 white jumper wires is just going up. One is going in this terminal, and one in that one, and then here's the actual main breaker, and then this top one is the main breaker, or not a main breaker, but a kill switch to the solar panel charger. It's a 60 amp here. You can see it's a 60 amp breaker. I don't know if it says it or not, but it does. It's right there. I'm an idiot. 60 amps right here. But I get a kick. Not really a kick. Kind of makes me mad in a way. The solar people and all that, they sell DC breakers. Oh, it's a DC breaker. These here are standard household breakers, for AC. A breaker doesn't know what's going through it. It just knows current and electricity is going through it. You know, whether it's direct current DC or alternating current AC, the same thing. It just opens and closes the switch to make connection. And another thing, you got to use braided wire, because if you use the solid wire, the electricity bunches up, because the amps and all that's on the outside of the wire. And electricity takes the least path of least resistance. And to me, now this is me, if you have a braided wire or if you got a solid wire, which one is the path of least resistance? The one that's braided up or the solid? Now this is 10 gauge. Like I said, standard 10 gauge. I'm not going to run a lot on it. I mean, you know, I have put 220 on it. You know, 110 here and 110 here, and just breaks it down. I mean, you know, I've ran it that way, but I'm not an electrician, you know, but I do know a little bit about electricity, and my best friend is an electrician. So, and yes, I know this is not 110 electricity. This is 12 volts, but with the solid wire 10 gauge or the braided wire, I mean, it's just it's a sales pitch that they give you to get you to buy their products. I mean, that's all there is to it. You know, like going back to the DC breakers. Oh my God, you know, you got to have a DC breaker to do solar power. No, you don't. Here's a 20 amp breaker. 20 amps is 20 amps, regardless if it's DC or AC. I mean, like I said before, it just opens and closes the circuit. That's all it is. But don't get fooled and don't get suckered into buying the DC breaker. Alright, I had to throw a little pun in there. Yeah, don't get fooled by and suckered in by them telling you need DC breakers. You don't. A breaker is a breaker. Your amps. And to dummy this down more, 20 amp breaker. Okay, that means 20 amps can go through this little puppy. Easy. You put 30 amps through this, it's going to switch. It's going to throw the breaker. So, but a breaker is a breaker. Plain and simple. Whether you got DC or AC. Now, yeah, it may look prettier on your big solar panel smorgasbord of utensils, you know, to have the panel and have it all little DC and all this going down through here. Yeah, it look prettier, look more professional, things of that nature. But let's look at it. I mean, do you want function or do you want fashion? You know, most people want both. Personally, most people want both. I want function. I'd give two craps of what it looks like, as long as it works. So, I mean, you know, but enough said of that. Like I said, I have my two 10 gauge wires right here. These are the little white jumpers down here to my, where is it at here? Right here to my top breaker, because these two here, they go to my furnace, electric furnace. Okay, well, I got my electric furnace in the next room over here, which is in the living room. Well, from the solar panel, let's say this here is the solar charger. Well, I have the green and orange ran from it over to the electric furnace, which is 60 amps. Got two 60 amp breakers. Okay, I just have one of them hooked up. You know, have the orange and green hooked into one breaker, 60 amps. Well, since I already got wire ran to my fuse box, I was like, okay, I can hook it from my solar charger to my electric furnace. Since I already got wire going to my fuse box, then I just come to the same breaker that I got hooked up, run 2 jumper cables or jumper wires, one to one side, one to the other side. That way I have everything 100% DC. Now that's just to run my lights. That's all I'm worried about is my lights right now, because I got water. You know, I got running water, and I got 2 sources of cooking. You know, I got propane, and I have the Coleman fuel. Now, I can heat my bath water up. That's no big deal. Yeah. I have the hot water tank right here. It's 40 gallons. They sell a DC heating element to go in these things. You get 300, 400, or 600 watts. Well, this particular unit takes 2 300 watt heating elements to heat up, and it's made in the USA, so therefore the heating element that you can purchase will work on any USA made water heater. Well, what do you do when the nighttime comes? Well, that's the whole purpose of a water heater. Well, if this filled up at its 120 or 140 or whatever temperature you like it at, will stay hot and warm for 3 days. Warm enough to take a bath for 3 consecutive days. That's with no power. Because when we had our power shut off, it was 3 days before this started throwing out cool water. Because every time we'd turn the hot water on, cold water would come in to keep it filled up. But it took 3 days before this 40-gallon tank to, hope I see 40 gallon here, I don't know. Yeah, 40 gallon right here. 40 gallon. I don't know if it'll focus or not. Anyway, it took 72 hours before it to start throwing out cool water. You know, cold enough so you can't take a bath. So, with the DC heating element on this, 1 day is all it would take to 1 day of sun, of throwing juice in here, would heat this water up, and I would have hot water for 3 days, because it's only me and my wife. And then, what can you do? Okay, yeah, it is a little monotonous, I guess you'd want to call it, you know, repetitive and all that, would be to come in and throw the breaker at nighttime to keep from it sucking power from your battery bank. And then if the next day you get up, and then if it's sun, then you come back in and flip the breaker back. So, excuse me. Is it a, what do you want to call it? What's the word? Or phrase? Is it a life-changing experience? No. Is it a habit-changing experience? Absolutely. I mean, yeah, AC, just go in, flip a light on. You don't have to worry about power, because you know it's coming from the grid. You just have to worry about paying X amount of dollars at the end of the month. You know? But, versus DC, whatever you have, power stored in your batteries, that's what you got to work with. And do you find out real quick in a hurry on tips and tricks on how to conserve power? Absolutely. You know, which I even done this on when I was on AC. You know, when there's a little saying, when not in use, turn off the juice. You know, you leave a room, you still leave the light on. Well, I always turned it off, and if I'm not in that particular room, that light is off. Although, you know, we have people that take it for granted, you know. 10, 15 minutes of you not being in the room with a light bulb burning, well, that's that many minutes that you could have stored in your battery bank. Now you multiply that up for a week or even a month, that's a lot of minutes, you know. So when not in use, turn out the juice. But yeah, just going back to the DC breakers and the braided wires and things of that nature. You know, this entire house set up for AC current. There's not a braided wire in here. And that's even 220 as well. There's not a braided wire. The only braided wire is the two that went for my furnace. That's it. And I bought those at Lowe's. The wire is probably about the size of my thumb. I don't know what size it is, but that's the only braided wire that's running my house. Now, they are braided wire that's coming from the grid here, you know. And yes, this is a 200 amp breaker box. And if you're using more than 200 amps, there's something wrong with you anyway. But like I said, just a little food for thought. You know, don't get caught up in the sales pitch. Well, you need this and you need that and you need this and you need that. I can say yes. 12 volt power is a no joke. It's no joke whatsoever. You do, however, have to have big wire. Because the bigger the wire, the bigger the load. And so your 10-2, you know, or your Romex or whatever, you know, it would run lights and all that good stuff. I'm having no problem whatsoever running every light in my house, and even my outlets. Although, let me throw this. Although, with one battery and only throwing out 30 amps, I am only able to run a limited amount of things. As in, let's say I have something plugged in the outlet, and then I go and turn on the kitchen light, and then go throw on the bathroom light. Okay, well, my light will start blinking. That solar panel light will start blinking, or that inverter light will start blinking. Because, you know, I'm reaching my 30 amp limit, you know, because it's got a long way to go, right? And 12 volts is good for about 40 feet-ish, 40 feet-ish. Well, my house it's 960 square feet. I have no problem, like I said before. I don't mean to sound like a broken record. Keep y'all looking at this ugly old fuse box, breaker box. But get out there, play around with it, learn what works, learn what doesn't work. But I mean, if you can afford the big fancy high-dollar wire, by all means get it. But in all reality, you don't need it.